Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the wildly complex, sometimes infuriating, but absolutely brilliant legacy of a bona fide hockey legend, Claude Lemieux. With the recent really sad news of his passing at just 60 years old, the whole hockey world has been buzzing. So let's get right into it, because this is definitely not your standard cut and dry sports bio. Over a massive 21-season NHL career, Lemieux was basically a walking, talking contradiction. He was celebrated as this clutch, championship-winning hero, but at the exact same time, he was universally despised by pretty much anyone who wasn't wearing his team's jersey.
If you really want to wrap your head around this paradox, you just have to listen to the man himself. I love how totally candid he was about this. He said, "To be the most hated man in hockey and have your name on the Conn Smythe trophy, it's special." That quote right there, it perfectly captures the absolute duality of his time in the NHL. He didn't shy away from the hate. Actually, scratch that. He actively embraced it. He weaponized it. So how on earth does someone balance being the game's ultimate villain with being its ultimate champion? Well, let's break it down.
Section 1. The Passing of a Legend. The news officially broke from the Montreal Canadiens organization on May 28, 2026, and man, the reaction across the hockey landscape was just immediate. Take a look at the official statement from NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman. Notice his exact phrasing here. One of the greatest big game players in hockey history. When the commissioner of the league singles out your clutch reputation in a memorial statement, you know your footprint on the sport is absolutely undeniable. Regardless of what anyone thought of his on-ice antics, he was a foundational piece of modern hockey, for sure. Section 2. The King of Spring. Okay, so let's explore that first half of his identity, the guy who showed up when the stakes were literally at their highest. I want you to focus on this number right here, 80. Playoff hockey is an absolute grind, right? The defense is suffocating, goalies are standing on their heads, the pressure is just immense. In that environment, getting even one goal is a big deal. Claude Lemieux scored 80 of them. That is a staggering total. It firmly cements him in the absolute upper tier of the sport's greatest postseason performers. To put that huge number into perspective, those 80 goals rank him 9th in NHL history. He played in a whopping 234 postseason games, which puts him at 6th all-time. We're talking 158 total playoff points. And get this, 19 game-winning playoff goals. Think about that for a second. 19 separate times in the highest pressure games of the year, the puck was on his stick and he just ended it. So that nickname, King of Spring, it wasn't just media hype. It was a scientifically accurate description of what he did. But his absolute peak, the moment he was the undisputed engine of his team, that was 1995. During the New Jersey Devils' Stanley Cup run, Lemieux took home the Conn Smythe Trophy as the playoff MVP. He led everyone with 13 goals in just 20 games, helping the Devils sweep the heavily favored Detroit Red Wings to win their first ever franchise title. He was the roaring engine of that team. But, as we know, every hero in one city is a massive villain in another. Section 3. Public Enemy Number 1. You see, you simply can't tell the full story of Claude Lemieux without digging into the darker, deeply controversial side of his game. It's the ultimate paradox. On the one hand, you've got the valued teammate. He was fearless, a clutch scorer, fiercely loyal to his locker room. But then you look at the other side, the abrasive agitator. The guy was a blatant rule bender. 1,777 career penalty minutes. He was constantly wrapped up in bitter feuds. He pushed the rules right to the very edge, and honestly, often completely over it. He was a guy who would do whatever it took to win, no matter how many enemies he made. And nothing, nothing, cemented that villain status quite like what we now just call the infamous hit. It was Game 6 of the 1996 Western Conference Final. Lemieux hit Detroit's Chris Draper from behind, driving him face first into the boards. It was brutal. Draper suffered severe facial injuries that required surgery. Lemieux got a major penalty, a game misconduct, and a suspension. But way beyond the discipline, that one split second basically poured gasoline on the Avalanche-Red Wings rivalry. It turned it into one of the most violent, bitter feuds in NHL history. That was the exact moment he became the league's public enemy number 1. What was it actually like to be out there on the ice with him? Well, listen to this assessment from Hall of Famer and Montreal coach Martin St. Louis. You had to fight for every inch on the ice with him. He was competing hard, always towed the line. St. Louis had to play against him, and his words just perfectly capture how physically and mentally exhausting it was to line up across from Lemieux. He was just relentless. He dragged you right down into the trenches with him on every single shift. Section 4. 4 cups, 3 teams.
Yet, despite all the chaos and all the enemies, the results? Totally undeniable. Let's look at this timeline. It's incredibly rare to see someone win championships across entirely different eras, with different rosters in completely different cities. But follow along here. 1986, he wins with Montreal. 1995, he wins with New Jersey. 1996, he wins with Colorado. And then in 2000, back with New Jersey for a fourth ring. Notice that crazy jump from 95 to 96? He became one of only 10 players in NHL history to win consecutive cups with different teams. Just imagine how hard that is. Walking into a brand new locker room, learning a new system, and immediately being the missing piece of a championship puzzle. That takes a very rare kind of hockey genius.
And the thing is, he was never just along for the ride. He was driving the bus. Check out these numbers. With the Canadiens in '86, he drops 10 goals as a rookie. In '95 with the Devils, he's the Conn Smythe MVP with 13 goals. In '96 with the Avalanche, 12 points in 19 games. In 2000, 10 points in 23 games. It clearly shows that wherever Claude went, the Stanley Cup seemed to follow. His direct impact was always a primary reason his teams ended up hoisting that trophy. Section 5. Life after the ice. So what exactly happens when the ultimate agitator finally hangs up his skates? It is fascinating how his reputation completely evolved in his post-playing days. He transformed from this on-ice pest into a deeply respected hockey businessman. After a quick comeback at 43 and his final retirement, he became an NHL player agent for 4Sports Hockey. Just look at this list of clients: Frederik Andersen, Rasmus Andersen, Timo Meier, Moritz Seider. These are top-tier modern NHL stars. The exact same guy who drove opponents absolutely crazy was now the one trusted to negotiate multi-million-dollar futures for the game's brightest talents. It really shows you he had this profound, intricate understanding of the business of hockey that went way beyond his rough exterior.
And, despite that chaotic persona on the ice, his teammates loved him. The loyalty he inspired was deep. Listen to this tribute from Avalanche president Joe Sakic. Pepe was a terrific hockey player, a fierce competitor, and a champion in every way. Gone but never forgotten. Rest in peace, my friend. Sakic pointed out that he was just a loyal friend who would do anything for his team. It softens the whole narrative, doesn't it? It reminds us of the profound brotherhood he shared with the guys who truly knew him behind closed doors, away from the roaring crowds.
Which brings us to a really touching moment, his final farewell. Just days before his passing, Lemieux stepped out into the arena one last time. It was Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Final in Montreal. And that Bell Center crowd, they went absolutely wild. They gave him a true champion's welcome as he emerged holding the Canadiens' famous flaming torch high in the air. For one of hockey's most polarizing figures ever, it was a deeply emotional and just perfectly fitting send-off in the very city where his legends started. So this leaves us with one final question to ponder. Will hockey ever see another player who can so perfectly balance being the game's ultimate villain and its ultimate champion? Honestly, the game has changed so much, it's highly unlikely we'll ever see anyone replicate what he did. Claude Lemieux carved out a space in the record books that is entirely, uniquely his own. A complex, infuriating, and undeniably triumphant legacy. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep this question in mind next time you watch the playoffs. Think about what it really takes to win, and I'll see you next time.